Good day, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce an attorney, George Benaur. George is featured on the JurisQ.com legal network as our exclusive business litigation attorney for your area. And I'm going to ask George a few questions so we can get to know him better. And first of all, George, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. George, do me a favor. Tell us a little bit about your firm. What is the size of your law firm? How many years of business and so on?
Sure. So I myself have been a litigator for 17 years, and I practiced at big firms around the country, mostly in New York and New Jersey, for 10 years before I started my own practice. And I've had my own practice for 7 years now. In April will be 7 years. And I'm a solo practitioner, so I run the cases myself. I litigate everything myself. But I do employ and work with certain consultants and certain assistants from time to time. And it just so happened that for the bigger cases that I've handled, especially in other jurisdictions, I've worked with other law firms. So I kind of hand select, teams that I build for every case. But here in New York, I've handled most of the cases myself.
But you do not just New York. You're also able to have clients not only domestically in US, but also internationally, and you have to bring in other law firms to help you.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, some of the really large litigations that I've handled, like the multi-million-dollar cases, I've had a case last year for 40 million. We worked with a team of lawyers. So there were a team of lawyers in Cyprus, in Russia, in London, in Monaco, in Florida. And I've been kind of in this world for a long time. So I maintain very close affiliations with lawyers in different key hubs where I typically litigate, such as California, Florida, Delaware, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York.
George, that's very good. And also, not only do you represent oligarchs and very wealthy individuals and companies, but you're also able to represent smaller and medium-sized businesses for their litigation needs. If they're getting sued or they have to sue somebody to recover for any money they're owed. Tell us about how do you try to minimize the legal fees by settling a case rather than going full-blown litigation, which eats up a lot of legal fees?
Sure. So there was a lot in that question, so I'll try to unpack it a little bit. Okay. So first of all, I didn't anticipate representing oligarchs when I launched my practice 7 years ago. As a matter of fact, my dream as a guy who was born in Moscow and came to America when I was 11 was to represent small to medium-sized businesses,
right? As
far as my own practice. And I wanted to create, and I want to create and have an alternative to the big mega firms, for the small to medium-sized family-owned businesses. So I'm perfectly happy handling cases that are, $100,000 disputes or more, just to help people and help resolve situations. In terms of how to resolve situations, what I've seen in my career is that a lot of law firms are not always effective,
right,
in terms of resolving situations or having a real plan. Like there's a complaint filed and there's an answer submitted, and then boom, the whole litigation goes forward and there's a big fight for 2 years. Doesn't always make sense in every case. So I have a lot of experience with risk management for large companies back from my big firm days. So I try to employ that in every single case and kind of do a risk management analysis from the get-go. What makes sense, right? If you have a $100,000 debt, does it really make sense to spend $100,000 going after it? Probably not.
Clearly not. No.
And you need to have kind of a business-oriented approach. And what I've found is, especially in business cases, if you're dealing with management or lawyers that have a business savvy aspect to them, if you give them the lowdown of like what the case will look like from the beginning and just say, look, we're fully ready to litigate. We have a good team. We know what our claims are. Here's our proof. You can often have an intelligent conversation about resolution from the beginning of the case. So I try to do that pre-litigation.
That's very important. So you actually look out for the interests of your clients and not just your pocketbook.
Yeah, my approach is that there are a lot of cases, and the more cases I win and the more cases I help resolve, then the word will kind of spread and there will be more cases
Exactly.
coming on top of that. So my approach is not like, oh, I got a case for, this amount and let me just milk it for the next lifetime. Like
Right.
that's just not good business. That's not
That's
how I.
very, very smart and noble of you. And the word did get out that you have a unique proposition towards legal fees, that you have a unique structure where not only do you charge hourly fees, but you're able to provide a mechanism where client pays a certain amount per month plus a success fee. Can you please explain how that works?
Sure. So I'm very flexible at being the owner and the lead counsel in all of these cases. So I typically try to make sure that I handle cases based on a realistic budget, which is something that I know pretty much like what a case is going to take, right? So basically, if it's a several $100,000 dispute over a breach of a promissory note, it's not going to be like uber complicated, right? So I know
Right.
I can do it for X amount a month.
Mhm.
And then ideally, obviously, I want to make money also. So I tell clients like, look, if you're okay with a success fee at the end, I'm happy to work towards a success fee and reduce the monthly rate.
And that gives you an incentive because the more you save your client or the more you obtain for your client, the more you make. So your interest and your client's interests are aligned.
Yeah. So taking that particular case as an example, if I take that case on a flat monthly fee of let's say $3,000 or $5,000 a month, and then 10% of recovery, and I settle it in the first month, then okay, I didn't make the extra 3.5K in the second month, but I've
Right.
just made 30 grand.
Exactly.
So obviously my incentive is to try to resolve the cases as soon as possible.
Mhm. And I can attest as a businessman that when you have attorneys on hourly fees and they all want at first a big retainer, I'm talking about thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. What ends up happening is that they burn through the legal fees very quickly, and you have no idea how much it's going to cost you in the end. So with your structure, you're able to sleep at night that every month you know exactly how much you're spending, flat fee, in legal fees, and you know that once you win, once you settle, you're going to make a certain percentage. I think it's a much better model.
Yeah. So, what I found in big firms is that associates have a lot of pressure to bill.
Yeah.
And then there's a hierarchy, right? You have the senior partners that are not doing the daily work, and they maybe have particularly high hourly rates. Then you have associates billing, you have assistants billing, paralegals billing. It all culminates, becomes a very big bill. And from my perspective, because I do a lot of the work and I'm the one testifying and, presenting the case in court, I know the case inside out, which gives me an advantage often
Right.
against big senior partners that don't necessarily know the case, or they don't know the facts as well because they didn't do the work. That's number one. And number two is, it's tricky for me also because I have to calculate these flat fees if I enter into them very carefully, because you don't want to enter into some agreement and then the case blows up into like huge litigation with counterclaims, and it goes on and on and on with depositions and etc.
Sure.
So it's always a dialogue with the client. But what I try to say to the client is, look, I want to work hard. I want to win this case for you. I think it's going to take me, 20 hours a month or whatever. We agree on some rate. But if the case blows up and everybody recognizes that it blows up, I try to have an honest dialogue with the client and say, look, unfortunately, this is not what we expected. Can we adjust or whatever? And that has worked if people have a, open dialogue. But, I've handled cases, very significant cases on low monthly fees, and then one success fees, which was great, and the client was happy.
Yeah, George, I've seen talking to business owners that not only do they want an affordable attorney, but even more importantly, they want an attorney who is transparent, that they know what to expect every month in terms of legal fees. There's a very
Yeah,
important quality, a very important fee structure that you have.
Yeah, I think that people really want fixed expectations on fees, but I think
Yeah,
also people want transparency and understanding of the facts and what's going on with their
right,
case. You know, I think the
exactly.
number one complaint about attorneys is that they don't call back in time or they
Right,
don't know what's
yes,
going on. So I
absolutely.
try to, so I try to basically translate complex legal issues for
Mhm.
clients and explain to them what's going on. Like, look, there's a moratorium on filings right now and during COVID, and we can't do this, right?
Right,
Or
yeah,
we'll be able to do X, Y, and Z, and try to have this ongoing
sure,
dialogue.
sure. People are intelligent, business owners are smart. They want to know what is going on in layman's terms, but they want to know what is happening with their case. It's very important to provide them that feedback. Can you share any interesting recent client success stories you had?
Well, sure. I'm actually coming off a big win this year,
Mhm.
which took place about a month ago. And
Okay.
in the course of the last 2 years, I litigated a case on behalf of a wealthy Russian businessman in Miami,
Hmm.
Florida, which was
Hmm.
a enforcement of a Russian judgment.
Okay.
The judgment was for $36 million against the debtor.
Hmm.
And what we learned through investigators, I worked a lot with different investigators, was that the debtor and his wife and daughter in Florida had purchased assets
Okay.
to the tune of like over $22 million
Hmm.
after he had defaulted on his loan
Okay.
obligation. So we brought this action for enforcement of the Foreign Money Judgments Act. And being from Moscow,
Hmm.
I was, very determined to win this case because I was like, I'm not going to lose a Russian judgment enforcement case, that I have a chance to win.
Sure.
We won, and we got the judgment domesticated and enforced. We converted it into a Florida judgment, and
Hmm.
then brought claims for fraudulent transfer and alter ego liability against the debtor, his wife and daughter. And the case ultimately resulted in a global settlement that was
Okay,
reached
that's
in,
perfect. That was the best possible solution and outcome.
yeah, a week
Okay,
before trial.
congratulations.
We were fully prepped to go to trial. It was going to start November
Right.
29th, and it got resolved a couple of weeks before.
Yeah, that's important that your opponents, they know that if need be, you're ready to go all the way. You're ready to go to trial.
Yeah.
However, the preferable outcome is, like you said, a global settlement where all
Global.
parties are a little bit unhappy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in most settlements, they say a good settlement is when both sides are a little unhappy.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. But I know you're gonna make your clients happy, and people can call you, potential clients, business owners, and others, whoever has any kind of contract disputes, business disputes with their partners, with vendors, contractors. They can call you, as I understand, for free consultation and a free evaluation of their case, at least initial general evaluation, correct? And then you'll
Yeah.
be able to provide them possible outcomes and possible fee structures. And they can call you at a number we're going to give them on the bottom of the screen. And George, thank you for spending time with us today.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the JurisQ Legal Network family. And I'm looking forward to working with you.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.